もう退治することもありません。我々の命もどうなるか、ますます近づいてまいりました。いよいよ最後です。
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the best to ever star the King of the Monsters.
この情報を国民に伏せています。
誰かが貧乏口引かなきゃなんねんだよ。
Number 20, Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Is it just me, or has he been working out?
You kidding me? Sarazawa's got that lizard juiced.
Director Michael Dougherty's kaiju film amplified everything about the Monsterverse iteration of Godzilla. This King of the Monsters was finally being showcased in all his glory. He had some formidable allies and enemies featured, and the human stories were made more interesting. Godzilla King of the Monsters nearly overstuffed its titanic story by featuring legends like King Ghidorah, Rodan, and Mothra in a single film. But this Godzilla-sized monster mash made up for it with stunning action and brilliant special effects. King of the Monsters went a long way towards building goodwill for Big G fans that were tentatively entering the Monsterverse.
Senators, if we hope to survive, we must find ways to coexist with Titans, with Godzilla.
Number 19, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Let's face it, any Godzilla movie that features King Ghidorah is gonna be a good time. What made this one stand out is how he combined different sci-fi concepts. Outside of the kaiju, the modern heroes have to accept visitors from the future. We also get a Godzillasaurus that saved Japanese soldiers during World War II. While all those elements might sound too random to work together well, the movie expertly blends all the plot lines. A scene where a soldier who was saved by the Big G in the past reunites with Godzilla in the present is particularly effective. It's a monster movie where the human conflicts are just as interesting as the kaiju battles. Number 18, Terror of Mechagodzilla.
ただいま宇宙人に操縦されたチタノザウルスとメカゴジラは市の中心部に侵入してきました。
While this film may not have been a financial success when it was released back in 1975, it has since been largely reappraised by Godzilla fans. In the aftermath of the Big G's battle with his mecha counterparts, humans tried to use the wrecked robot's remains to their advantage. But the quest for knowledge that might benefit the world ends up endangering it all over again. Outside of the great moral questions, there's also some heft to the monster battles here. It certainly helps that we get more Mechagodzilla action. We also welcomed a new monster named Titanosaurus, whose big personality fit his hulking body well. Combining new thrills with sobering old lessons, this underrated flick definitely deserves a little more shine. Number 17, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2.
Ghost Rider helicopters have taken position. Operation Exodus is in effect.
Report any casualties.
The time has come, finally, to put our technology to the final test.
Serving as a direct sequel to 1991's Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, this film doubles down on the mecha monster mayhem while introducing original elements. During this film, Godzilla gets a new son that's fittingly named Godzilla Jr. Humanity attempts to use the kid kaiju to lure his parents into a fight against their mechanical creations. Unfortunately for them, Rodan flies in and crashes the party in the worst way. Not only is the action here totally satisfying, but the cinematography feels energetic and fitting to all the monster mashing at play. Overall, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 is a fine entry from the underrated Heisei era that definitely deserves your time.
There are no survivors. Damage level 10. This ship has been destroyed. There are no survivors.
おあいにくさま、誰も死んじゃいないよ。
Number 16, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. Yes, the title is a mouthful, but that shouldn't keep you from enjoying one of the most eminently watchable films from Big G's entire catalog. Nicknamed GMK by fans, the movie reframes Godzilla as an Earth-destroying threat. The only beings capable of stopping him are the world's guardian monsters. GMK is one of the few films to feature King Ghidorah as a protagonist. During the adventure, the hateful Hydra collaborated with Mothra and Baragon against Godzilla's marauding rampage. The creature effects are outstanding in this one, particularly Baragon, whose demise has to be one of the saddest scenes in Godzilla's entire filmography. Additionally, Big G has rarely felt this dangerous and downright evil. Number 15. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. While it may be bold to say this movie contains some of the most entertaining kaiju action of the entire franchise, anyone who sees it will understand the hype. The action really kicks into gear when Godzilla turns on his old friend Anguirus. After it's revealed that this rampaging monster is actually an alien-made robot in disguise, the original Big G has to fight to break the machine. The movie does a good job introducing one of Godzilla's greatest and most troublesome enemies. Although the build-up and prophecy regarding the debut of King Caesar may have been at odds with the alien story, the sight of those two duking it out against Mecha G still fills us with joy. Number 14. Invasion of Astro-monster.
We are watching an historical battle. Monster Zero has met his match today.
This 1965 entry hits all the beats of an entertaining Godzilla film from the Showa era. Aliens that arrive in order to make fools out of Earthlings? Check. At some point in the movie, do the aliens betray humanity and utilize mind control on giant monsters? Double check. Underneath the familiar setup, fans will still find a complex tale with some surprising twists. There's also tons of amazing kaiju footage to keep the action-hungry fans well fed. But most importantly, Invasion of Astro-monster is also the Godzilla film that features Big G's legendary victory dance. That alone is enough to put this franchise film into the Hall of Fame.
Did he kill Rodan and Godzilla?
He couldn't. They're too tough.
Number 13. Godzilla vs. Kong. The beef between King Kong and Godzilla goes back decades. After spending time apart, the 2021 movie brought the pair's rivalry into the modern age. Admittedly, the plot isn't half as deep as the Hollow Earth. Godzilla essentially senses something is off in the world at the same time that Kong coincidentally leaves his island. And just as the main clash is winding down, Mechagodzilla roars its way into the picture.
What the hell is that?
But the big coincidences and small gripes are forgotten whenever the monsters fight. Thanks to glorious CGI, we have a few of the greatest kaiju clashes ever put on screen. The title fight in particular definitely lives up to the hype. Godzilla vs. Kong was the giant-sized dose of dopamine we needed in 2021. Number 12. Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. The status of King Ghidorah as an apex-level baddie for Godzilla all started with this film. At first, the Big G is purely concerned with beating up Rodan. However, Mothra swoops in and convinces both of them that there's a bigger threat on the way. Seeing the Queen of the Monsters team up with Rodan and Godzilla to face off against Ghidorah was great. Additionally, it's certified that the Hydra was too intimidating to take on solo. The kaiju battles in this film are creative and fantastic, and while the movie's tone is lighter than other films, it's more accessible for younger audiences. That last part is especially fitting since it's team-up films like these that bring out the kid in all of us. Number 11. Godzilla vs. Ghidorah. Every franchise filmography needs an outlier, and for Big G, that role is fulfilled by 1971's Godzilla vs. Ghidorah. The film is unapologetically dark in places as it delivers an undeniable environmental message. Director Yoshimitsu Banno also inserts plenty of hallucinogenic weirdness into the visual style of Godzilla vs. Ghidorah. His stylistic choice gave the story an atmosphere unlike any other film in Big G's franchise. The titular smog monster, in the meantime, possesses a nightmarish design that serves as a dark mirror of humanity's toxic choices. Godzilla vs. Ghidorah also includes a heavy, psychedelic rock soundtrack and an overall haziness that makes us question whether the whole thing was a fun and freaky dream. Number 10. Godzilla.
In 1954, the first time a nuclear submarine ever reached the lower depths, it awakened something.
Almost 2 decades after Hollywood was ridiculed for making a silly Godzilla film, redemption came in the form of this 2014 epic. The grounded tale painted a world like our own that just so happened to have terrifying monsters brewing just under the surface. After a pair of kaiju became major threats, an awe-inspiring Godzilla stomped onto the scene to bring balance. The grim story was admittedly knocked for its dark cinematography and limited monster mayhem, but it did make each kaiju feel like a god. Additionally, the 2014 film deserves lots of credit for inspiring an entire Monsterverse of stories. Despite its dark edges, most audience members left wanting more. To borrow a legendary quote from Dr. Ishiro Serizawa, viewers were ready to
let them fight.
Number 9. The Return of Godzilla. Although the survivors of the kaiju's first attack thought the terror had ended, their fear returned when Godzilla did. This 1984 film showed how effective these franchise films could be as thrillers that included elements of realistic and fantastical horror. During the story, Japanese citizens have to prevent a potential nuclear incident between nations and keep Godzilla at bay.
The only way we can be absolutely certain of destroying Godzilla is by using nuclear weapons.
The grounded conflict allowed a lot of room to explore humanity's contemporary and historic issues in a new lens. At the same time, we never lost focus on Godzilla's strength. It doesn't matter whether you watch the 1984 version of the film or the American cut titled Godzilla 1985. Either way, you'll be drawn into an engaging and sobering story.
If Godzilla reappears in Japan, or in Japan's coastal waters, you must agree to let us use nuclear weapons.
Number 8. Godzilla Final Wars.
Godzilla, the most destructive weapon on Earth.
While a 125-minute runtime may seem excessive, the film's length allows for plenty of awesome action and memorable monster cameos. The straightforward setup of Godzilla Final Wars has the Big G facing off many of his old foes, and while they all put up a good fight, the king refused to be dethroned. That's not to say he's without friends, as Mothra and Rodan show up too. We also get an unexpected but not unwelcome performance from former UFC fighter Don Frye in a lead role.
Well, now we've got a nice souvenir.
While the stakes don't feel particularly high for humanity or the overpowered Godzilla, they don't need to be here. Fans are just here to have fun and watch a kaiju-sized love letter to the franchise. Number 7. Mothra vs. Godzilla.
ゴジラ対策よ。
ゴジラ対策？ゴジラ対策ね。モスラにでも頼むんだね。
One could argue that it wasn't until 1964's Mothra vs. Godzilla that fans witnessed the Big G fight against a proper foil. Sure, he had already battled both Anguirus and King Kong at this point in his filmography, but the Queen was his best match yet. The two came to blows after Godzilla threatened Mothra's eggs. While she battles to save her offspring, humanity struggles to find their place in the world between these titans. The human drama behind the discovery of Mothra's eggs is compelling. At the same time, the actual kaiju battles are some of the best from this early stage. This crossover film should be essential viewing for franchise fans.
でも俺ぐらい言わなくちゃ。
いや、あの人たちへのお礼は我々がいい社会を作ることだ。
Number 6. Destroy all monsters.
世界の重要都市が次々に怪獣によって破壊されております。モスクワにはラドン、北京にはモスラ、ロンドンにはマンダ、パリにはバラゴン。
Godzilla Final Wars wasn't the first Big G film to gather up all of his friends and foes. 1968's Destroy All Monsters has the distinction of being the first to gather all our faves in one place. Anguirus, Gorosaurus, Manda, Baragon, Kumonga, and more all showed up to the party. Each of these monsters take villainous turns thanks to some malicious aliens, but once the kaiju regain their senses, they become an unstoppable alliance.
指定のキラー寄生獣はまだ何の反応も示しません。ゴジラを先頭に勢ぞろいした大怪獣軍、誠に壮観です。
This is another monster mash that doesn't need to worry about subtle metaphors and allegories. Destroy All Monsters is focused on collecting your favorite kaiju and setting them loose to do what they do best: mess stuff up. Number 5. Godzilla vs. Biollante.
あれが自分の細胞から作られた生物だと知って近づいてきたのだろうか。
We're glad that 1989's Godzilla vs. Biollante seems to be finally receiving the praise it deserves from Big G fans. There's a level of tragedy at play on Biollante's origin story that stands in stark contrast to so many other kaiju. After Erika Shiragami shockingly dies at the hands of rogue villains, her DNA is combined with genetically modified plants. The fusion of genetic material eventually leads to Biollante's birth. It isn't long before this tragic creature gets revenge against those who cut her life short. Unfortunately, Biollante's actions put her on Godzilla's radar. The resulting battle pushes the Big G to his limit. While we won't spoil the ending, we can't hide our desires to see the tragic tale of Biollante continue one day.
ゴジラでもビオランテでもない。本当の怪獣はそれを作った人間です。
Number 4. Shin Godzilla.
太古から生き延びた海洋生物が奇跡的に生きながらえていた生息地域に偶然大量の放射性廃棄物が海中投入され、その影響下で生き残るため放射線に耐性を持つ生物へと急速に変化した。
The decision to make Godzilla an unstable and continually evolving creature was deemed controversial back when Shin Godzilla was released in 2016. Thankfully, the end results of this film were so impressive that the new character design won over most of Big G's rabid fanbase. We can totally see why too, since the creature design is tremendously frightening and unsettling. It truly feels like a destructive deity who will never yield to humanity willingly, and will never forget the unhinged and terrifying way it unleashed an atomic breath attack. While we're used to seeing Godzilla brought to the brink, the humans are pushed to the very edge in this epic. We can't look away as they rally against this ever-growing threat to their existence.
それがないと世界は安心しないだろう。日本、いや、人類はもはやゴジラと共存していくしかない。
Number 3. Godzilla vs. Destoroyah.
Apparently, something is happening there, in the reactor, in Godzilla's heart.
Moviegoers don't historically visit Godzilla films for emotional pathos. Yet, there probably wasn't a dry eye in the house when it was revealed that yes, Toho did in fact kill off Godzilla in 1995. The movie made headlines during this time for being the tale where Godzilla's heart went into full nuclear meltdown mode. Although the movie used his son to build a path forward for the franchise, saying goodbye to an old friend was hard. The emotional story doesn't make Godzilla's farewell tour any easier on us. Godzilla vs. Destoroyah made moviegoers realize how much we loved Godzilla and what he truly meant to us. Number 2. Godzilla -1.
臨時ニュースを申し上げます。東京湾から上陸した巨大生物が銀座方面に向かっています。
The human tales within Godzilla movies can often be hit or miss, but the main story present in Godzilla -1 was unquestionably compelling. In the last days of World War II, Koichi Shikishima becomes one of the few soldiers to survive an encounter with Godzilla. After spending years being haunted by guilt and fear, the kaiju returns to wreak havoc. We legitimately care about Koichi's journey and chances of survival. Meanwhile, Godzilla always feels like he's waiting in the wings, a harbinger of death lurking just around the corner. The way Godzilla -1 effortlessly balances the human and monster elements should be studied. It's a modern masterpiece that feels destined to become an enduring example of the genre at its finest.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Godzilla. One of the reasons why Godzilla is rightfully lauded as a cinematic classic today is because repeated viewings of this film always seem to reveal something new. For some, it might be the choice bits of dialogue that underline the gravity of each monster attack.
信じられません。全く信じられません。しかもその信じられない事件が今我々の眼前において展開されているのであります。今やゴジラの通過した後は炎の海と化し。
For others, it may be the seriousness with which Godzilla is presented. Each appearance feels like the end of the world. At the heart of the film, there's an allegory for the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki that still feels relevant. When director Ishiro Hondo and special effects coordinator Eiji Tsuburaya collaborated on this landmark film, they used techniques that would change the entire industry. The first Godzilla movie is a thrilling adventure that continues to influence legions of stories. What was the first Godzilla film you ever watched? Let us know in those comments below.
いかにしたらゴジラの生命を絶つことができるか、その対策を伺いたいんです。それは無理です。
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.